This takes place in Virginia in 1967. I was stationed at Vint Farm Station, a glorious Army post that during the Civil War, since they didn't really want to be involved, they flew the British Union Jack. I was flying Cessna 150s, and I'd pretend I was John Wayne and dive bomb on the gate to the post. It was a fun time. Yes, definitely a fun time. These stories were really meant to extract things from my memory that have haunted me for years. I was a billet sergeant. I had no real command authority. My main job was just to make sure that the restrooms were clean. I had about 60 men living in this billet. The billet was unique in one respect. It was the only community shower on post. These were individual stalls, and we had shower curtains, which was unusual. Even the company commander once asked why we had shower curtains, and I just said, I like privacy, and that was basically what we had. I hung around with a group of enlisted men. I went from E4 to E6 there in the technical grades, and most of my friends were E5s and like that. But in an infantry group, they'd be sergeants. In the units I were in, they were classified as specialists, which was non-command. Several fun things I had was that we had the same base commander here that I had out in California. So he knew me, not in the sense of talking, but he knew me by sight. In one of the few occasions he had a post billet inspection. He came through and he counted my beds. And in this, I kept 6 beds in each bay. And there were 7 people there. And he says, could you give me a brief explanation what's happening here? And I says, this is a friendly squad. He laughed. Now the first sergeant and the company commander, after the post commander left, had a near hissy, but I wanted to get rid of one of the guys there, and I did. I thought he was an idiot. He would not pay child support, and I gather he made his money on weekends making gay porno films. I had another guy there who just refused to take a bath. And it was a weekly chore to get him to take a shower. It was just a mess. Now, even though I had no command authority over these guys, by more ritual or ceremonial use, I was in charge of signing off on leave papers. If I didn't sign, the first sergeant would just forge my initial. It wasn't anything. I wasn't in command of these troops. They had their own NCOs and OICs and all that. I just ran the billets. Well, this one guy came up to me and says, this guy who needed the bath came up to me and said, I need to go home to marry my girlfriend. She's 9 months pregnant. And I said, well, for that reason, I can't turn you down. Well, when he came back, I asked him, well, did the baby was born yet? He looked at me and said, no, she's decided not to have the baby for another 2 years. Right then and there, I knew this guy was rather insane. He had several other problems on the post. He was on the Little League team, but a number of the parents said he paid too much attention to the boys, and they requested that they didn't trust him, and they requested that he be removed, which he was. So then he was sent to, of all things, to work with the chaplain, and he would teach Sunday school. Well, one day the chaplain, his wife and young 6-year-old girl were walking down the street, and they saw him on the other side of the street, and the girl waved, and he waved back. The chaplain asked, what do you think of that guy? And the little girl said, oh, I like him. he gives us all real cute nicknames. Well, what's your nickname? Oh, Honey Pot. Well, he was shipped out very quickly then because the chaplain said that got to go. The last I heard he was sent to Alaska, where he raped his male company commander. It was in a far north outpost, and that they had brought him back through Fort Richardson in a straitjacket. Way to go. But I tried to tell people this guy is a loony, but who'd believe me? The other thing I noticed there, again, the group of people I hung around with, one of them was my assistant platoon sergeant, and, well, let's say he was openly gay. Didn't say he was gay, but he had the mannerism, the voice of a very gay person. So one day I asked him, how come you speak with such a gay accent? And I suspect now that this answer was not, to him maybe at that time it was accurate. He says, what the sense of being gay if no one knows you're gay? And I thought about it. Sounds good to me. A thing I'm not sure of, and I wish someone would make a comment. Was the term gay used in the 1960s? I do not think it was. But the other terms that I would think were probably more prevalent are probably socially unacceptable nowadays. Well, unfortunately for poor Robbie, who was a good friend of mine, he and I, in a small group of other guys, used to hang around, pal around together. He was called by the MPs one night down in his van having sex with another guy in the group of guys I hung around with. Well, anyway, the guy he was with was a very straight-laced guy, but he was also the pitcher on the post baseball team, which that year was doing real good. And it was just maybe a couple more months of the season, so hey, baseball game, Army regulations, baseball, you do what's right. You hold everything in abeyance so the kid can finish the season pitching. And Robbie, they made permanent CQ, and that's charge of quarters. And so he was in charge of the company after 5 o'clock in the evening to about 6 the next day when the first sergeant came back. That was his permanent duty. Okay, when they finally went around to, after the season, they court-martialed him, and they said, well, he was the guilty party. The other guy, even though both were discharged, was just being taken advantage of. I firmly doubt that. I just think they were probably very equally guilty, and probably wasn't the first time. And since they hung around with me, by the way, I at Vint Hill Farms, as in the whole Army career, never had any sexual encounters, so that was no big deal. No one ever asked me any questions about it. And I see where we are reaching the end of this little thing, and so good night.